I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't do that. This sort of thing has cropped up before, and it has always been due to human error. Has the mission been completed? You know that I have the greatest enthusiasm for it.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Sloppy Modeler. It's a lovely May Sunday evening. Had an opportunity to go out for a pretty lengthy bicycle ride today, which was very refreshing and kind of burnt out some of the birthday weekend out of my my system. So, welcome back to the Moebius Models Moonbus, the Space 2001 A Space Odyssey 155 scale Moonbus. We're going to talk a little bit about where we've been, and we're going to talk about where we're going to go from here. So what we've done up to this point since our last update on the video, one, we've got all the chairs painted and glued in, and we have across this section here and this seam here and so forth, I've put in just a seam of canopy glue. And if you've never used this stuff, Clear Part Cement and Window Maker from Testers, I've got 3 or 4 bottles of it. I love it. I also use at times Micro Crystal Clear, which is the Micro Crystal Clear there. It helps with building windows and making windows and doing clear parts. This has got far more body, far more structure to it than, say, the canopy glue. So much so that I actually use a little syringe here with an extra fine Sigma point, glue point on it, that this you can get into the tiniest windows and make them, or you can use it to build up a larger window, and then it comes out, as the product says, micro crystal clear. So it's a really kind of a nice process. So since our last ventured outing, what we've done here, again, we've painted in the seats and added the color to, and this is a raw umber here, to the seat rest or the armrest, and then we also painted in the 2 console sections that are in the back of the Moonbus. So this one here has got, looks like this is kind of a machine pack. You've got your electric motor right there, some steel dials or chrome dials, and then this looks like this green tarp maybe with a hammer that's laying in the tarp, and on this side painted this with just a brown tan color, flat earth color actually. That's been painted in, and then I used both brass for the chains and then actually silver for the buckles on that. So that is done and glued in for the Moonbus right there. Since we last talked, I also have glued in the runners on the landing gear. Those have been glued in. Also, all the rest of this has been glued in from the undercarriage portion of it. Now, one of the things we have yet to do, this is a kind of a shock absorber, and right now I've already painted this with a chrome finish. I will have to go back through and on the white paint that the color of the cabin, the exterior of the cabin, which is that Martha Stewart's craft paints, and I'm using for the exterior, I am using the craft paint that is Wedding Cake, and that's the name of that paint. It's a kind of a bright white, but it leaves just a little bit of a nice gloss or semi-gloss to it, like a wedding cake would. So I'm kind of thrilled with it. So I'll paint the bottom section of those, and those mount on there actually quite simply just by putting it down here and then leaning it up against there. So once those are painted, those will glue in really nice and add some detail to that landing gear. So that is in the works as we progress. Again, the rockets have been done. I have tried my luck at figurines, and so most of them now have had a Model Masters chrome finish, which is not a acrylic chrome but rather an enamel chrome, and the shine on that really looks nice in my opinion. So it's got a nice shine, Looks like it's, you know, a silver spacesuit as it sits. And then around the collars for all the spacemen, I used a gunmetal from Tamiya. So I used a Tamiya gunmetal. Here you can kind of see what that looks like. And then on the boots, instead of just a flat black, on the boots I used XF17 Sea Blue. So it's not a deep dark black, but that sea blue from Tamiya gives just a little bit of gloss to a boot. You know, a boot doesn't necessarily look like it's always just flat black, and so that's got a nice look. The next process now with all the figurines, now that I've got all painted, is to paint the hair and the face and the hands. So we'll use that porcelain doll from Martha Stewart's Paints to paint that up. And then actually a couple of unique figures. This one here is a co-pilot, I believe. And so not only do I have the boots painted and the gunmetal painted, but this is looks like a little iPad there. And so I painted the back of that iPad silver, and we'll paint the hand. And then on the inside of this, because it's still Space 2001, I'm going to paint the inside of that with like a high gloss green. It's kind of the same gloss green that I used for some of the panels on the instrument panel, and we'll come back to that as far as cleaning that up. Here are the rocket thrusters for the maneuvering on that side. I have taped in or glued in the black panel that sits behind that, so it gives you a real nice black panel. One thing I was not aware of on this piece is that you can actually see right through that. You can see right through that screen, and it's kind of a hollow piece. I know that there's a resin aftermarket kit that would work for that to fill that in, but you know, for the most part, that black looks nice behind there. Really a stark contrast with that Martha Stewart's wedding cake paint color. So again, we're pulling that together. The resin kit, I guess, actually looks like a set of rocket thrusters that you would see, or air thrusters, whatever you would use on a regular ship. I did get glued in this piece here, which is one of the bulkheads for the main cabin behind it. And then I've been waiting to do this one because what we're going to do is I'll solder these 4 wires together, which are the wires for the overhead lights, and then I'll stuff them back in behind. I'll stuff them back in behind this here, and those will disappear. Those lights will disappear, and I run the red wire here underneath. I've run that underneath here, and the green wire will fit in there. So for the most part, there's just a little bit of exposed wire, and then once that's in and done, I'll then be able to take this other bulkhead that goes to the back of the cockpit and install that, and then be able to glue that in from this perspective. So that's just going to take a little bit more work, and I'm not going to solder anymore this evening, but we'll solder at a later point. I have not yet glued in this black piece, the Forerunner, underneath the cockpit, but that is probably coming in the near future, so that is left to do. And then, of course, once the lid is on, I have put the glass has been installed in the side windows. And let's see if we can't get this maybe to light up a little bit here while we're sitting here looking at each other. And we'll go to there, a little flash, and to there. So now what we've got is the sidewalls are lit up, the glass is in place, and I think you can see through there. You know, you can see in real life, not on camera, I can see clear through to the containers that are painted up the brown and the gold. I can see the really nice green patch there for that tarp with the hammer on top of it. The glass looks really nice. The glass is very clear. There's no distortion in it. And you can see clearly into that, that bus passenger chamber. And I think once I get these silver guys into it, I'm going to be really thrilled with the way that looks out. I'm just going to be delighted, frankly, with the way that turns out. And then, as I said, what I'll do is just lay a piece of tape right across here, spray this, and then tape off the other pieces that need to be taped off to spray the whole thing for its final coat of paint, and then we'll go to weathering and so forth. So a couple of pieces that have to go on that are going to take a little bit of time. On the back of that cockpit bulkhead are two parts that indicate ropes. And I haven't decided what color to paint those, whether to paint them white, like white rope on a naval vessel, or, you know, your standard rope color, you know, with the twine, you know, looking like it. So I have to do some research on what that rope is going to look like and go from there. I have not yet done the antenna that sits on top of the Moonbus, and honestly, the details from Moebius are a little bit vague on how this goes together, and it doesn't have an obvious, noticeable way to connect this to this other than just made up two parts and put the glue to them at this stage. So the other pieces that we're also going to be working on, we've mentioned a couple times, I've finally taken them off the sprue, and that's going to this piece here on the sides, on the seams at this stage. So I think what this looks like, and I'm not sure if this is the right part or if the other side is, or if I've got them backwards. Looks like I've got them backwards. Let's try it maybe like this and see how that looks. Nope, that's not correct either. Let's try the other part. I guess I should have yeah, that looks like a part right there. So this is going to fit into that seam and do all the light blocking for me, and fill that really nice. And it's going to be really a nice way of eliminating a seam. Looks like that one's pretty close. Once you've got the rockets in there, you're not going to see that. So what I've decided to do for paint color there, the directions call for painting that like a silver color, and I think that that wouldn't be silver in real life out there. So what I'm going to do, I found, again, Martha Stewart's Crafts Paints. This is wet cement, and it's got a nice little gray sheen to it. It's darker, obviously, than the white wedding cake that I'm painting the rest of it, and I think that's going to be a nice contrast without being too contrasty, and look more akin to what the photos have on the side of that. So, in my opinion, that doesn't look silver. I think that looks more gray, and so I think that's what we're going to do, is paint that with that wet cement color. Also, I think what I'm going to do, I've seen a couple of modelers really do a nice job with the door in the back. I've seen the door painted up several ways, but there's a nice little crease all the way around this where you've got this dental type molding all around the door. I think I'm going to tape off a section of that and paint that wet cement to kind of tie in the colors on the other piece, and then do some other detail. I think these are black, and then like a ramp back here has got some silver to it. So there's more painting to do on the outside of that, obviously, as we move ahead. And then one of the other details, and I wish I had a set of decals for it, however I don't. This particular part, basically these fit in the sides and go in front of the rocket launcher, or the rocket thrusters. This part here, I've just painted white for right now. Just left it a white color, and the thing is that when that is white like that, looks like my other camera kind of died on me, so we'll just keep going here. With is going to be there's decals that would normally go in here of a bunch of red lettering, and then this was painted black, white, red lettering on white, and then painted black. So I don't have that right now. So it looks like my camera batteries are dying. I'll come back to you after I've juiced up again. And for now, this is the Sloppy Modeler signing off. Thank you. Right then, hey, welcome back to the Sloppy Modeler. We've had a little bit of progress here over the last few hours working on the Moebius 2001 A Space Odyssey Moonbus, the 1 to 155 scale Moonbus. And I really have to say, this has been a fantastic kit to put together and to work with, and it's been a challenge in a lot of ways. But in the other, it's pushed my modeling skills even further than what I started with, and that's really always the goal in my mind of putting together a model, not just to do it quickly and you know, within an amount of time that's satisfying, but to do it well and to do something new with each particular project. something you haven't done before, and something that might push your boundaries a little bit. So let's talk about where we're at with the Moonbus here in, I believe this is update number 4. So a couple of things we've managed to get accomplished. These are the shock absorbers, and they have been painted that Martha Stewart's wedding cake white, along with the chrome on the slider part of that. So we've got all 6 of those completed, and when those are dry, we will glue those into the landing gear, and you can see those are ready to go. You can see the spot where that landing gear goes in, which is right there, and on the other side, and it mates up to the side of that. Just a quick review of what that looks like when you're talking to the chrome and then the white on the inside. Did manage to go ahead and take care of the ropes that go on the back side of the bulkhead. Both of those, I just went with navy yellow, right? You've seen a lot of ropes that are just that yellow, so that was a real simple solution along those lines. The rockets are done. I still have yet to work on the antenna for the top that will go right here. Of course, that'll probably ultimately the very last thing that goes into the model. So the other thing we've worked on hard recently is all of the figurines, and essentially I was able to get all of those at least painted, touched up. Here's an African American that I attempted to do with the darker tones and the black hair. So that's an African American, and we've got a redhead to come together, and one of them I gave a nice bald spot to. So again, not something I've ever done before, painting figurines. This one here, I made an older gentleman with the graying, silvering hair, and what I did is use flat aluminum for that. I'm not sure if that's in focus, but I used flat aluminum for that with a little bit of white brushed over the top of it. So all of those figurines are completed and painted, at least as deep as I'm going to do it. Also, you can see here where I did paint that screen on his iPad, just a green, because I didn't think it would be in a Moebius Moonbus. I didn't think that would be a bright, 24 color screen. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought green screens, I saw some of those in the movie as you go. Here's another little challenge that I'm facing at this point too. This is the cockpit, and what I've done is I've glued in the first side of this. Because this seems a little bit warped and a little bit twisted, you can see here in the back where I've got this one is against and glued in, and this one is not. What I'm going to do is wait to that to set up, probably for 24 hours. Let that glue set up over there, and then twist this into shape so that we lose that gap there, and also the gap that would be right in there. So that's going to be just a bit of doing, but I want to make sure that glue sets up nice and tight. And then what I'll also do is here in this section here, I'll light block that with some tulip so that you don't have any light coming up through the center of it. This has been taped since about day 2. There's black underneath there, so once that's in and done, what I'll probably do is tape off the rest of this and put the windshields in. I'm going to go with the original shooting style, which are the straight down, not the arch all the way out. I just think that looks nicer, and it's going to pick up that red on the interior cabin a little bit better on that interior of the cockpit. On the inside, a couple things that we've managed to do here since we've been with you last. See if we can get that open. There's another pilot that's in place. I do have these wires in and ready to go. It's really kind of a challenge opening and closing this. You have to do it like a hinge. The windows are glued in. And now this back bulkhead has been put in and glued. The front bulkhead has been put in and glued and put up there. So I'm going to do a little bit of light blocking there just in the front cockpit. But I'm really delighted with the way that the lockers in here turned out with that Raytheon lighting. I think there's going to be enough lighting here out to the the spotlights or the side lights, searchlights on the side of the Moebius Moonbus. And then we also managed to get these 2 white side panels in. I didn't have time in the last video to discuss what those actually do or how they appear, and I'm not going to do anything more with them. In the traditional Moonbus photos, what you have there, this is actually a black panel with every one of those squares being a white square with red text in it. So obviously it's some sort of control panel or maybe compartments where they have different things stored. That is so hard to see when you've got everything on there that to me it's not worth the time versus the payback to do all of that. But the bulkheads are in, they're painted, we've got the ropes ready to go on, which will go here and here in the back of the Moonbus. Again, this Raytheon lighting is done there, and then we'll glue in, now that all of the figurines are done, we'll glue them in. I guess the one thing I have yet to do is, I don't know if this is a specimen jar for, or a milk can or what that is precisely, but I do know I need to paint that, not just leave it white. I might just do that with a nice blue as a container and be done with it. So, that pretty well sums up the progress that I've made on the Moonbus. I think the next time you see it, I'll have all of the figurines and astronauts in, and I will have the ability to finally, I think, glue down this top. And I think that's the next step after the figurines are in. We'll glue that down, and once that's in and completed, then I think what we'll be able to do is work on the front end of the cockpit to seal that up. I do know that there's going to be some gaps to fill where that corner is on the searchlight. So once I get that glued in, I'll fill that gap and sand it, and then we'll be ready to go into the taping and painting of the outside or the exterior of the Moonbus. For now, the interior is pretty well complete, along with the figurines and all this here. I'm kind of pleased with this. Turns out I have to glue those in. They're just in temporarily at the moment, but I'll glue those next. And once those are in, I can close up the top finally. And this is the last of the update number 4. So back in update number 5, you'll probably see the Moonbus closed up. Until then, I hope you go out and enjoy building something. Go out and enjoy building a model. I think once you get into the spirit of things, it's always a lot of fun, a lot of challenge, and it's well worth doing once you get that sense of accomplishment. So until then, take care. This is a Sloppy Modeler signing off.